So, Rebecca, what I'd like to do tonight is, go down the balance test line, okay? Because I really believe that that's what got you into ZINZINO. When you look at exactly how you came into the program, it was your words, okay, that I'm taking a very top-end product because I can buy it at wholesale, okay? And, go ahead and do a test, Rob, and hit your heart out and let's see what happens. You were very confident that you were balanced in your omegas. Can we now just go through, and I'm going to use my test as an example, so you're a live patient that you're talking to. Sure. Could you just sort of share the screen and go through some of the pointers on my test where I started and then where I am today as what I call a balanced omega person?
Yes, fantastic. So let's go into the screen here. All right, so everyone can see this is your first test. Let's try to zoom up there. Is that quite clear for you, Robert?
Fantastic. Perfect.
Okay. So this test is really changing up the industry in terms of how I practice and share with my customers that come in and with my family and friends as well. The big thing about being a pharmacist is a lot of people think that that's my standards and they're happy with here. And so they say, I don't need to do what you're doing. You know, that's your life. You do it because you want it. I don't need it. And I'm about preventative health. But when they get to do a test, something like this, they start to see the need and they start to get more insight. And with insight, you can really help people with their health. And I think that's the same in terms of anything across the board, business, relationship, health as well. If you have insight, you can make the right choices for yourself. So this one here gets us so much information. I'll start on the surface so that if no one's ever, like someone that's on the call hasn't seen this test before, they can get an overview, and then I'll dig into these down here. Let's just start off here. So this is something that you did. That's not you.
That's not me. That's not me. I'm not
You're
38.
not 38.
I'm 38. Yay!
Let me just stop that share there and jump into here. We've been doing so many presentations online, Robert. Let's just see. There we go.
I wish I was 38, but you've turned back my clock.
But I'm just saying that even with that test there, we could see that is quite common.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
See, let's just show you my whole screen and then I can pick up things as I go along. Okay, that's you there. That makes more sense. So you got introduced to ZINZINO 2019? Or
can't see it on the screen.
Oh, you can't see this? Let's see. I'm just going to try to share you my whole desktop screen. So whiteboard crew. There we go.
That's it. That's me, 56.
Okay, that's you. Fantastic. Okay, so we've done this test a year ago. Let's just say that you walk into my pharmacy. This is how I talk to you. Yeah. Or even if you wanted to do this for your friends and family at home, this can give you some insight. And what we can do later on is push out all the research that has been behind all of these variables and targets here. So we'll get back to the protection later, because that one is more so like an overview and a summary of how you put these together. But I like to start off with your omega-3 level, and we know that as your omega-3 index in Australia. Mm-hmm. And so what that is 100% of your fat that's we're able to trace in the blood sample. If 8% of that was omega-3, we know that we can reduce cardiovascular risk by 30%. We can reduce, what else was there? We're also looking at the lifespan, reducing inflammation associated with like arthritis, even with obesity. There's been lots of studies coming out looking at omega-3 index, and we want you to get from 8%, and the highest we normally see is about 12 to 13%. We haven't actually recorded anyone over 15 or 20%. So when they see that you are under the 8%, which you started last year, Rob, with 8.3%, meaning less than half of the target ratio as well. And that shows that you're very depleted in omega-3. And when you start to do this test in Australia and around the world, you see this is quite common because of your diet. Because your body cannot make omega-3s, it will try to convert it from the food you're eating and other fatty acids in your body. But at the end of the day, we're trying to push this up because there is just so much health benefits and research to show that if you have higher than 8%, you're going to be protected. So if you go down here, where does this figure come from? We're looking at the EPA and DHA. Now, your brain is going to turn as much of all these other acids down and convert it to DHA, so that is essential for life. And then the EPA here that you have is your anti-inflammatory omega-3. So at this stage here, you can see that you were quite inflamed. And what does inflammation look like? I always share this with people. They come into my pharmacy or they talk to me and go, hey, you know, I'm 40, I'm 50, or I'm 30, and I've got this condition. So it could be eczema, it could be diabetes, it could be osteoporosis, it could be an autoimmune or some dysfunction that's happening. And to simplify, I go, there's 3 things that can make you sick. The food, your environment in terms of where you're living, what you're exposed to, and stress. And so even when we're looking at your levels like this is definitely food intake, but stress regulation can also affect your profile and the environment. So looking at what you're exposed to and your gut health as well, which is fantastic when we're going to look at like a fiber product that's coming in from ZINZINO later on. Gut health is so essential to all of your health there too. So we can see that you have inflammation. And the reason those 3, affect your health is because they cause inflammation. So your diet with a high omega-6 is going to cause inflammation. The stress from your work life or your family and just things that happen in life in general, that's going to pump up inflammation if you don't, if your personality isn't that stable in terms of regulating stress. And then environment. So people working with high chemicals, with spraying, or physical stress, all of those environments can actually really stress them out. And we can even see how much technology is around us. That's also another environmental inflammation. Before this test came in, I could only say that. I couldn't measure your inflammation. So when this test came in, they're like, what do you mean inflammation? Why don't they measure it? It's because they didn't really have the tools available to measure it. And I know around the world this has actually been out for a while now, and I've heard even in America that this is available. So what we want to see here is the omega-6, the arachidonic acid, and we see that there as having inflammation. So I've just lost you there, Robert. Make sure you're still on call.
Yeah, still online.
Oh yeah, fantastic. So you've got the omega-6, which is, we look at that as your inflammatory omega-6. Now the inflammation isn't bad because we need a little bit of fire in the house. If we take out all the fire, what's going to happen is it's going to get way too cold. So we need a little bit of that. And kids normally have more of the omega-6 than we see for adults as well. But your arachidonic acid then, if we jump now to this second variable, is started at 5.1, which means that you are actually too inflamed. So you've got too much omega-6, which is having a look at this one here. So if you go say 6.3, the ratio of your arachidonic acid in your body, and you divide that by the 1.2, they kind of round it up and down a little bit because I'm sure the variables are not just at 1 decimal point, but several. You can see that's where they get you the ratio of 5.1. So we're going to look down here. And the funny thing here is, Rob, you're actually not too high in arachidonic acid. You're just so low in EPA, and you're just so low in the EPA value there. So you don't really need to go and avoid all the omega-6 because your body wasn't so highly, up on arachidonic acid, but you just only at 1.2 back then with your EPA. And for most people, that's what they need to hear because they're like, oh, can I just go home and stop eating vegetable oils? And they go, oh, but that's really weird. I eat olive oil already. I'm not even getting, meats and animal foods. Or they're vegetarian. And they go, so why do I have to reduce omega-6? Most of the time we are just so depleted in the EPA, which is your anti-inflammatory. And this figure here, this ratio, this is such a great indicator for health because we're going to start looking at the inflammation in the system.
Fantastic.
Probably, if I keep it short, the cell membrane fluidity, that is something that I can see moving forward in looking at cell function and just protecting the whole body as a whole, because the cell membrane and its signaling, it actually affects a whole heap of your other systems in your body. And I like to explain this like an egg, and the egg is the eggshell on the outside. If it is too stiff, which means if it has too much saturated fat, then what's going to happen is these nutrients won't be able to get in, and then the toxins won't be able to get out. So what's happening here is your cell membrane index is sitting at 11. We're going to just open up, let's see if I can get both of these up together. I'm going to share this other screen. Let's just bring up what happens after you've had it for a while and the difference that happens in your body as well. Because this is the old report, isn't it? It didn't, this one here, the old report that they
This is the first one.
First one, yeah. Let me go out and share this. Stop the screen share. Let's jump into your new one. Should have a function that it can be able to share both. Let's just stop that there. I want to be able to share the whole entire screen. I wonder if that allows it. Okay, so this one here is your new one, and then you did that in February, then 6 months later you did this one here, and you can see there's been a significant improvement in your omega-3 index, because before that you were at 3.8.
Correct.
Yep, I wish I could share both of the screens side by side. I'm sure, maybe because I'm not the host I can't share everything easily. So with the the omega-3, your 3.8 jumped up. You still have room to improve, and that could just be your body in terms of how it can soak it all up. So some people, their cells are like sponges and they can just take it all in.
Yeah.
You still have, and it'll be interesting to now, being a year later, to test to see what your omega-3 level is. But what we could guarantee, and what's actually happened here, is your balance has been rebalanced, and it's gone down to 2 to 1. So where your arachidonic acid, let's go back down to here, your arachidonic acid is sitting at 6.6. We can see that your EPA has increased, where your EPA before was sitting at, let me just jump on my screen, 2.1. Yep. Your EPA has actually doubled, or gone even more than doubled, to 3.3. So 6.6 divided by 3.3, we got the maths happening. We've got you at a good ratio of 2 to 1. So for 2 arachidonic acids in your body, you've got the 1 omega-3. And that's already happened because for you, at least your arachidonic acid level was quite low already. It wasn't over the 8 or too high. But for most people, we see that they need to up the omega-3 even more because they are so inflamed. So that there shows you your inflammation ratio, which is great. Yeah. And then here we're going to go back to this cell membrane fluidity. This is very interesting here, because what we want to see on this report is they're actually putting the saturated fats against the omega-3, the EPA and DHA combined. So let's have a look at your saturated fats, which is just down here. You've got a high PA, so palmitic acid, compared to this one. The deviation is at 5.8, which means generally anything, say, over 2 or 3, we can actually look at what foods you're eating. And this one, and actually from Tilda last time, was that if you're not eating, say, overly too much animal fats and meats, it could be an indicator that your body is doing something with the carbohydrate loading that you're putting on your body. So this could be like from your gluten carbohydrates, or it could be even like deep-rooted vegetable carbohydrates. But for you, Robert, for this one here, the saturated fats, we can start bumping out the saturated fats by putting in the omega-3, or we could get you to actually not have too much carbohydrates. And I know that you've been reducing that naturally already. Yeah. It will take a little while because naturally within your body and other medications that you're on, it's still sitting around in the body. But we do want to see that drop down. And sometimes what we see is this might even be, for you, this makes sense because we don't want you to have too much saturated fats. For some people, they're actually sitting around 18, 20 to the 23, and they ask me, do I have to take more saturated fats? And the answer is no. We're always looking at it as a whole. So we're not just looking at individual figures, we're looking at the ratios, because the ratios tell us about your health. it's not about the one in particular figure. Like, you don't want to go out there and say, for example, linoleic acid. You don't want to go and just find sources of foods of linoleic acid and eat a lot of that because you want to match everything. The focus of the omega-3 balance test is, one, omega-3 index, two, the ratio. The ratio is so important. And the cell membrane fluidity, because the cell membrane fluidity is talking about, like, say your cell is even a sponge. If it's really like oversaturated and dry, you try to get nutrients, it's just going to slide over the cell. Whereas with yourself, if you can get that moving more fluid, you're going to be able to get more nutrients in and out. The signaling is going to happen a lot better. Just quickly, I'm going to touch on the mental strength. That's a biomarker for like increased risk of depression, even say like anxiety and things like that as well. And that's with the studies they've done. I've actually heard about studies how there's a room of kids and they were all really roughed up and fighting and not doing well in school. And what happened was I think a university came in and said, we want to do a study. We want to see what happens when we help your kids have omega-3s. So they start dosing the children in this school that easily had fights, got expelled, and they actually dosed them up on omega-3s. What they found was when they introduced a new child to the school that child didn't get bullied or, you know, like they normally go and do, they actually went and made more friends. So their relationship improved, and the only change was the omega-3. And what it is your body has these receptors, and I'm 100% sure what's happening here is the omega-3s go and sit on those receptors and their calming effect. So, you know, there's all these studies coming out with cannabis oil and medical marijuana and all these other things. And I mean, that's a few steps higher. But if you're looking at some oils that sit on the receptors to calm the central nervous system down, to help the brain process, omega-3 is where it's at. And we knew that back thousands of years ago, having it in, you know, oily fish and having it in our organic vegetables and food. So what we can see is for children, I would love to actually see more of this one here getting improved and then measuring their behavior as well. And usually for mums and dads that are taking the ZINZINO, I tell them to give their children a dose. I know you've got some very rich dogs.
Yeah.
And I know you and your pets, you know, and a lot of the same time, that's the thing. If you can give them the right essential oils, give them the right levels, we're going to start protecting their body a whole lot more.
Correct.
Yeah. If you want to know quickly about arachidonic acid efficiency as well, so what that's looking at is this linoleic acid converting down to arachidonic acid. And you can see here your linoleic acid is fine, it's low, it's omega-6, but then that means that when it's converting down, that makes sense because then you've got the lower arachidonic acid level too. And generally speaking, with arachidonic acid, you can get that from like eggs and with chicken and protein like that. So you can still make sure you have good clean protein with lots of vegetables.
Yep.
Having your oils as well is going to improve your health. But you can see already, in terms of having a report like this, it just takes out all that guesswork. Is something working for this patient? Does this person benefit from doing what they're doing? It's been really exciting in terms of adding it to what I do.
Fantastic. Now, Rebecca, certainly, and let's just talk about that for one moment. And you know, was that key, you know, when I spoke about the balance test, okay, when I shared that with you. But talk to me about what you've seen actually with the results of the product.
Yeah. So probably the fastest result I saw was someone with really dry skin. So she came into my pharmacy and she lifted up her trousers and we looked at her skin and she's Asian, but it was all white and scaly and cracked. Even to her fingers, like she could get bleeding cracks. And she's tried all the ointments, all the, you know, lotions and everything there too. And I said, you know what, just try this omega-3 because if it's really going to work in your body and saturate, it will come out into your skin. And so you'll find that skin elasticity, aging, the lines, it's very well hydrated from the inside out. And within, I think, 2 weeks, she came back and she goes, I don't know if this is too early to tell you this, but look at my skin. And she's like, I've just used the normal moisturizer that I've always been using, but look at my skin. And immediately I was like, oh, that's incredible. And obviously with that quick result, she's come back and she's always had it. Her body was so dry, it just absorbed it straight in. The other thing I've worked with is someone that had like really cracked skin on their hands to the point where they couldn't hold taekwondo pads because they were a trainer. And they were also a businessman. They couldn't shake hands because they were embarrassed of how dry their hands were. Mm-hmm. And then we did a bit of gut health, and we looked at the carbohydrate loading, and then we added in the omega-3. And then he sent me before and after photos, and I'm sure I sent them to you. I was like, look at that. How fast are those results? So what I've seen is we're going to marry up a lot of this pharmaconutrition with whatever we're practicing with already so that we can get the best results for people. And by pairing them up correctly, say I've got people that are on cholesterol or high blood pressure, we want to really best support their body first before we ask them to make lifestyle changes. It's really hard to tell someone to go and lose some weight without giving the cellular support. I even had this one lady, she was trying to lose weight for 3 or 4 months and using a weight loss program. We checked out her hormonal levels, made sure that wasn't a problem, her thyroid levels and all that there, but nothing was shifting in terms of her body composition. So I was measuring her fat percentage to her muscle percentage. And it would go up and then it would drop down 1 or 2, percent, and then it would just stay plateaued. And it was getting to that point where I was like, I don't know if she's lying to me. I don't know if, at home she's not actually eating what she's eating and she's not doing what's on the program. But, benefit of the doubt, I was like, okay, there's something else that's happening. Let's just do a few functional testing. One that's dropped onto my desk lately is this omega-3. Can I see what's happening in your cells? And I did it, and she was all red. And her cell her cell membrane fluidity was, and it was interesting because she was actually eating a clean diet. She was dieting, she was doing a personal trainer. She was even doing, some of this nutritional shakes as a meal replacement so she wouldn't eat the wrong foods at lunchtime. But in terms of her body, it was just so dry and stiff. So then from there, and her body it was like she knew that it needed the omega-3 oil because she said it tastes delicious to her. And she was easy to drink. I'm like, are you sure? And I think, sometimes your body will tell you that, and sometimes little kids will tell you that too. They will tell you what their body needs. So I had one mum saying she shared her omega-3 with her 2-year-old daughter, and her daughter's like, no, she's not sharing that. This is mine. I'm like, okay. And she always comes to the fridge and takes it out and go, Mum, I need she goes, I need this. And she will take it in. I think that's really weird because I've had her on other cod liver oils and all these other things, and she hated it. But when I gave her a bit of this, she kind of told me that she likes it, she wants it. And I said, your body is very smart. It would tell you you need something. It would tell you that, it's good for you too. And for those people, you can see they just come back and they just get the results. They get what they need straight away. And the great thing is the body composition started to shift. So her muscle started building up and her weight went down, and she just got all that more motivation. Her energy levels picked up. So when she was training, she was able to train and push herself a bit more. And that shows with the studies they've done with omega-3s as well. What happens is they did studies with the militaries and studies with basketball teams, and with fixing the omega-3 level itself, they were able to see less lactic acid buildup, cramping, more oxygenation to the muscle, and it's got to do with giving the body food that it needs.
Fantastic. Okay, Rebecca, fantastic. I appreciate you coming on tonight. I look forward to seeing you in Perth tomorrow night. We've got a great event happening over in Perth. So please, if you've got people in Perth and you want to hear some more information about what we're doing at ZINZINO, please get up to ZINZINOAustraliaEvents.com, ZINZINOAustraliaEvents.com. Check out the events that we have around Australia. Rebecca, thank you again so much. Your personality, your support, your help, and everything that you do for us here at ZINZINO is truly appreciated. And I'll see you tomorrow in Perth, okay?
Tomorrow in Perth. Thank you very much, Robert.
Take care, guys. Bye.